We know. We know. We know it. We know everything. So I'm gonna do some. I'm gonna do some. Let's see, is the Wi-Fi gonna catch? Whatever. Okay, John Jones. Fundraiser, entertainment, make it as real as you want. Let's do a fundraiser. Me and John Jones, just intuitively, right? And obviously he's subject to his blunt perspective. If I don't fancy his quota, he's a dense dude, right? He's like number one. Like John Jones is number one, right? So if John Jones is number one, you can't say that name lightly, right? Like we're talking about number ones in this extreme paradox. People are in the kiddie pool on an overall level, and there are other people in this number one. So it's like God's sick and twisted mind allowed that in the third dimension, right? Like the kiddie pool mentality energies are in some type of like time period of power, and the people who are like leading the number one, yeah, they're going through this underdog tribulation, right? So it's like I could put on another song when when I have more space with the legs. Like I'm times five with the dancing, right? So that dancing piece could have been horrible right there, but I'm doing this for the kids, right? Because like doing this for the kids. I'm doing this for like the general fucking real collective energetic bitching. And obviously it's a context thing, right? Across the board, right? So it's like but is it righteous bitching, or is it just wickedness? So I want to put a song and just kind of like just do like some type of like just some type of just some type of dance, right? Hindu religion. People are attracted to where they could get their feeling, right? And people don't are they're not really honest with their approach of desire, or their desiring approach, right? There's like a shame faction there, right? Even before whatever type of like chisme drama agency network, right, that could do whatever to your phone, right? Before that, people are using some type of shame tactic, right? And it's through the pain of this 3D, right? So I'm not necessarily like judging anything, right? And like I might I mean, I don't know, like some energies, could be a waste of time, but that's part of it, right? That's part of this life, right? God wants us to experience quote unquote like all of it, right? Beyond the human and beyond even the archons and the latter Anunnaki, right? The latter Anunnaki, a certain time age of the Anunnaki where they grew up, they filled in their roles, and they just kind of like have like super egos, right? And within those super egos, there's obvious like not there's like a not obvious blind spot, right? And what do I mean by the not obvious blind spot? Well, if a circumstance in a narrative is created purely off of false intelligence and energies, then that's a certain type of matrix illusion. That's what the old matrix literally was meant for. A dark show. Like that's literally like beyond all the spiritual teachers. Like we've had the collective realization since like 2013, right? Inching up in 2013, right? Like 2013, we've had like these collective realizations where like this the like we're understanding what the matrix is doing, right? So what is the matrix doing? What is the matrix? It's the field of reality, right? So the field of reality, certain entity archons are in power, and their agenda kind of goes for a time being. And then apparently predecessors are saying there's a shift, but within that old guard, the dark matrix is making dark shows, like the predecessors say, train wreck, train wreck episodes, disaster episodes. That's what their goal is. However it wants to be fabricated, there's a train wreck motive, right? And somehow with the grace of what is good karma? It's you having the ability to use the intelligence, to use the knowledge, so you could align with some type of quote unquote safety or protection, right? Because the safety and protection, whether some individual subjective person wants to downplay it, it could still be an extreme somewhere else, right? So like someone could be extreme in the gung ho destruction campaign or the war campaign, right? So as they're extreme with the destruction and war campaign, that's not the only thing that could be extreme, right? So there's different things that are extreme, but like the Scorpio season is so dark and mysterious because all of it could come out simultaneously while it's gonna be suppressed, right? And the fates will just do whatever the fuck they want. And obviously, some people don't want me to speak about this 2013 realization shit, right? Like what, that was 12 years ago, right? Like these collective realizations, low key, not necessarily freely expressed, they were already realized with some type of general conformity of the masses. What is the general conformity of the masses? Like, oh yeah, we know this. Oh yeah, you didn't know about that. Oh, you know this person. Oh, you know that person. Oh, you know this. Oh, you know that. Oh, everybody knows that until they don't. It's like, no, you're in a secluded party of intelligence, and that secluded party of intelligence is not all that is. It's just a secluded party that you're energetically conforming to and putting your attention to, and you're deceiving yourself by thinking your secluded party of intelligence is all that there is. And that's like on an esoteric level, that's a ghastly mistake because you're not seeing different campaigns that are affecting your seclusion of things. So that's the beauty of God, right? So this is the beauty of God, baby, in all his fucking beauty and fucking energetic glory. So it's like, hey, just feel the beauty of God. Just feel it. Yeah. And people, within like 4,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, what was happening, right? They were in the depth of it, right? The depth of sabotage campaigns. Like we weren't necessarily there firsthand in the witch trials, but there were some witch trials, right? Somehow the Divine Mother got caught somehow slipping within the 3D matrix, right? How did she get caught slipping? Well, how are you explaining the witch trials? They gathered large amounts of female pagan girls, some organization, and it was going against their surface level masculine occult. And there was a lack of balance within that era of when the witch trials happened. I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT real quick. How many witches were killed? How many witches were killed in the witch trials? In the witch trials? And what time period was that? So it's kind of ironic because people are just not good, not bad. They could just sell out to some type of quote unquote, some type of like superficial limiting, fragmented power. So it's people sell out to a fragmented power because you could be a female and you could say you're a witch, and then the next couple weeks you could see all your sisters getting slaughtered, and you're gonna do whatever you can just to stay alive. And from that dynamic, you're subject within that 3D dark magic matrix, you're subject to sell out your fellow sister because you're in a dark theater of dark horror survival challenges, right? Headed by certain archonic beings, like 2013 realizations, right? And like surface level new expressions of ourselves choose to forget or remember how we can based on the different types of healing we're doing, right? Whew. So 60,000 witches were executed in Europe and colonial American witch trials from 1450 to 1750. So some scholars go lower, 30K, a few higher, but 40 to 60K is the responsible mainstream bracket specifically for deliberate execution. So they got 60,000 women. That's not that much. I mean, you could say that's much. I mean, you said like, but were they really like some type of advanced witch for their resetted surface level earthly incarnation of their selves? They were just in touch from a bottom up level. So if they were quote unquote advanced witches, they had a cap, right? Because if you're an advanced witch, you wouldn't get killed like that. But 60,000 witches got, right? So 60,000 got from 1450s to 1750s, late 1400s. what was happening. Church courts began formalizing witchcraft as heresy. So there it is right there. There's a classic. What's the modern version of that? Church courts began formalizing witchcraft as heresy. Some people have it in their mind to persecute someone else, to identify them as heretical, and then after is just the fake stuff after that. But really, they're just thinking it's heretical because it's going against their regime. And now there's a persecution happening from there's like a false a lucified heresy going on, right? 1500s reformation turmoil, which paranoia explodes in Catholic and Protestant lands. Peak intensity: Germany, France, Switzerland, and worst affected. So 1500s, Germany, France, and Switzerland. 1560 to 1650, absolute peak of mass execution. So the year 1560 and 1650 in the European regions respectively, absolute peak of mass executions. Some towns literally wiped out 10 to 20% of the population. So somewhere in 1500s, Germany, France, and Switzerland, and cities in Germany, France, and Switzerland, towns had their own economy and sociology population, and 10 to 20%, most likely targeting young magical females, were wiped out. So like we would have to ask on a more advanced esoteric predecessor leading edge, like just on a mature level, like what entity was hunting those witches, right? And obviously, like, the higher, the pure galactics know, like, it just like so the freedom that we're taking for granted, that collectively was really developed, is the collective freedom of speech. Like it heightened in the 2013, but for some reason, new age mainstream spiritual teachers, they're not using it because they're sold out to some type of contract, which is a contradicting contract, because that contract is saying to persecute the things that we want to promote, something like that. Like we're saying it's okay to be yourself, but it's not really okay to be yourself because it's going against our control dynamic, right? Our power and control dynamic, right? Like this is elementary, like I guess esoteric intelligence, right? 1700s to 1750s, trial sharply decline. Enlightenment begins. Salem, 1692, is actually late and small by Euro standards. Post 1750s, essentially over in the West. Witchcraft decriminalized country by country. Important context: 75% to 85% of accused were women, but men were not rare, especially in Scandinavia and Iceland. Germany alone accounts for 40% of all executions, not because of Germany as a nation, it was hundreds of microstates, but because fragmented legal systems escalated panic. So that's the thing. On a modern level, we're not necessarily connecting the dots for some lack of a pure entity who comes in and out of this shit, divine intervention. Somehow there's a stream of a fragmented legal system in America esoterically and internationally esoterically, because if there wasn't a fragmented legal system, then real distorted spiritual entity criminals wouldn't be making all of these different contexts of jumping through loops and jumping through holes to try to like destroy someone, right? Salem killed 19 people. So it's an entity thing, It's like it's an entity, and like obviously we're just hosts, right? Human design says no choice. You could use it for everything. You could use it happy. You could use it when you're sad. You could use it when you're angry. You could use it when you're in love, right? Some type of justification. It does feel you sense that it's naturally correct. It's some type of intellectual salvation, right? So the salvation is here intellectually, but for some reason, fragmented modern consciousness, for their stubborn, distorted satanic individual self, they don't want to connect the dots to something that's real, fulfillingly whole, to go to the source of God. Because the original God of the source, he's the one supplying everything. And certain entities are jealous of that source. So since certain entities are jealous of that source, it's like, why does, so then the basic question is, why would God allow that stuff, right? So it's a spiritual question. If God exists, why would he allow this shit? If God's all powerful, why would he allow that shit? That means God must not exist, right? So God doesn't exist because he's allowing these nefarious entities to get away with these things. So since that direct act happens, then that's when we exactly lose faith, we lose understanding, and we are convinced with a new, perhaps spiritually false belief system that God doesn't exist. But I think God is a context thing, right? If you're playing a video game and like you lose a war in the video game, it's like you're the one taking on the responsibility to go on that challenge. God made the video game, and God could be giving you different lives, 9 lives or 10 lives or whatever within the video game, and it's up to you to understand like, oh well, you didn't pass the test type of shit, you know. But but make no mistake, it's like obviously within some type of sophisticated manipulation, people could use these things like out of pure scripture, right? You know, they could lose the they could lose the etiquette of like the pure religion, right? What does that mean? Lose the etiquette of the pure religion. It's like it's like me saying some type of wisdom insight, the most original, intellectual esoteric teacher there is, and on a different current, the best, number one, in fact. No cap, you know, quality underground, like 2016 even. So and how the shadows and the non-shadows are like kind of like working with that literally, that esoteric dynamic, it is beyond ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, you could have a particular very sophisticated type of esoteric cognitive dissonance by saying, yeah, we're doing everything correct and right, yet have a cognitive dissonance of how this is happening elsewhere, how there's something literally more advanced, and how you have sophisticated type of cognitive dissonant replications that you are using, that you could be in a sophisticated intelligence level, you could be using open source in a slightly detrimental way, right? You could be using that as a friend until you close it off, right? So this is like my intellectual esoteric prophecy. It, like, in the balance of it, it is supreme. It's the original supreme. And that's just what it is, And I'm not claiming to be anything, right? If someone, I never claim to be anything. I'm just saying this is what this intelligent energy is, what it is, right? On a different level. So it's like everything is just like everything, right? That's the experiment. Everything is everything till it's not everything. Because there's a universal matrix going on. What is the universal matrix? Why is God allowing nefarious entities to get away with these things? Well, they haven't done that entirely, because if they had done that entirely, then you would be sabotaged. Your life would be completely sabotaged. So there's like, you're in the game, you're in the 3D game, right? Like literally, like there's simultaneously there's an attempt to sabotage your shit, and simultaneously there's some type of literal like divine intervention that's saying that's not happening aside from their attempt. So simultaneously, on a deductive reasoning spiritual level, you can prove that God exists, because simultaneously he didn't let certain entities fuck up everything, right? And there's a whole different record in the Akashic records that explain it in hyper fucking explanation and detail, and even have a visual of how a certain almighty quote unquote God entity stopped. And I've done, and I swear to God, the underground talks about like so much more shit. Like, I think the online is like, it might be 1/3 to the underground, but I don't know. I'm not too sure about that, but it's like you can't and obviously hopefully this doesn't sound redundant at this point, but you can't disprove that God exists either. Like, how could you disprove God exists? You can't necessarily disprove a higher God intelligence doesn't exist if there's something that's blocking some type of attempted sabotage to have a different type of takeover, right? So since that attempted sabotage is trying, but it can't do it, what's stopping that? The God programmer of the universe, right? So there's a game. So it's just like to put it in a simple perspective, it's just like it's just a sick game. That's what life is. It's just a sick game. And how is it a sick why is it a sick game and how is it a sick game? Well, I just explained it. Like, why is it a sick game and how is it a sick game? Because we're experiencing the themes of change, different types of change. And even though we could have like a chance to experience destruction, to some degree we could experience it, but to some degree we could also have some type of like comeback, right? So what force in the universe is allowing you to come back, right? Would that not be God? And I'm just like a different pure galactic council has to fucking just know individual humans cognitive dissonance. Why do I keep saying cognitive dissonance? Because you're claiming you're about this shit when you're not about it, you know? And that could be self-sabotaging in a different esoteric long run. So that's the esoteric, like, it's like the esoteric da 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 right there, literally. So this was just a rant. What is life? It's just a sick game. Thank you very much. I'll come back as always.